On behalf of University Center for Health Professions Education, Sri Devaraja's Academy of Higher Education and Research, I welcome you all to today's webinar on S5 Formula for Leadership Development by Dr. B.V. Adkoli sir. UCHPE was started.
One small request, Swarup, can you please mute everybody for a while because I hear some background noises from some people.
Yes, sir. UCHPE was started in the year April 2020. Since then, we have conducted 6 webinars, 1 international conference, and 1 international workshop on leadership by Ray Welsa. So this is our 7th webinar, and it has been one of the objectives of UCHPE to inculcate leadership qualities in our teachers. And this webinar will help us understand and imbibe the leadership qualities. To introduce today's speaker, I welcome our convener of Medical Education Unit, Sri Devaraja's Medical College, Dr. T.N. Suresh.
Suresh, before that, I would request our principal, Dr. P.N. Sriramalu, to welcome the registered participants and the speaker. Sir, over to you.
Madam, very good morning. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Devaraja's Medical College, a constituent unit of Devaraja's Academy of Higher Education and Research, I extend a hearty welcome to everyone. The University Center for Health Professions Education has been organizing academic events since its inception. This webinar is the first one of this kind in the year 2022. I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Adkoli, the Director, Center for Health Professions Education, and a Professor of Medical Education, Sri Balaji Vidyapita, deemed to be University, Pondicherry, who has graciously accepted our invitation to deliver a talk on S5 Formula for Leadership Development in Health Professions Education. I welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. G. Pradeep Kumar, and our Registrar, Dr. KNV Prasad, and all other participants who have registered for this webinar. As during previous webinars, I'm sure this one will also be fruitful deliberations with insights to empower health professions education. I wish the organizers all the best for this smooth conduction of the webinar. And once again, I welcome all the participants, eminent speakers, and the other dignitaries to this webinar. Thank you. Thank you, madam. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Suresh, will you please now introduce the speaker, guest speaker?
Yes, madam. So good morning to all. I have a great pleasure in introducing one of the leader medical educationists, Dr. Balachandra Adkoli, who is presently working as Director of Center for Health Profession Education at Sri Balaji Vidyapit, Puducherry. Sir is well known in the field of education. He has worked in, next slide. Sir has started his career in 1985 in NTTC JIPMER as a faculty. Sir has worked till 1991. After that, he has got a long career in prestigious institute, AIMS New Delhi, as an educationist. He served in the AIMS for 21 years, that is from 1991 to 2012. Sir had a short period of working experience in medical education unit of University of Dammam, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Sir also worked as content manager at the National Health Portal, New Delhi. Sir is a faculty, Regional Famer Institute, CMC Ludhiana, for a long period of time. From 2015, Sir is working in Sri Balaji Vidyapit University Sir has got more than 60 publications and more than 300 citation. He is well known among the medical educationists. So we are lucky to have you, sir. So to speak on today's topic, that is, sir has written many articles on these subjects. So now I request sir to take over to discuss on the leadership development in health professional education. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir.
You can, sir.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, sir. You are visible. The
Visible,
slides are
you'll have
visible,
to-
sir.
Yeah, you'll have to put it in the, like, the slideshow mode, sir.
I see in slideshow. Don't see in slideshow.
No, sir. Presenter view, sir? Yeah, now we can.
Okay.
We can, sir.
First things first. Let me offer my humble Shraddhanjali to late Sri R.L. Jalapa, the founder chairperson of Sri Devaraja's Educational Trust. And he is a true national leader and an institute builder, because one of the topics which I am handling today is related to leadership, and I can cite examples. And he was a living example. Unfortunately, last month only he passed away, but his spirit continues to guide the group of institutions under Sri Devaraja's University. And again, my greetings to Sri Nagaraja, Secretary, Sri Rajendra, Sri Rajesh Jagadale, and Dr. Pradeep Kumar, with whom I had the pleasant experience some time back, who is the Vice Chancellor now, and Dr. K.N. Prasad, Dr. Sri Ramalu, Dr. S.R. Sheila, and last but not the least, Dr. Vinita Shankar, who is giving a very dynamic leadership to the University Center for Health Professional Education. I was very surprised to see that designation, because there is a way forward and you have caught up. And I'm told your health professional unit is doing great activities, including this series of webinars. So my salutations to you.
Thank you, sir.
The topic which I have picked up today is S5 formula for leadership. Perhaps if you browse the net, you will not be able to find much information, because this is quite recent in origin and it is an explorative model. And the credit for this model not comes to me, it comes to the institute, the faculty, the people who have inspired me into my own journey of leadership for the last more than 30 years. Jipper Pondicherry, you will see the logo here, and AIMS, and plus Sri Balaji Vidyapith, which is also the present my institute. So the faculty, in addition to many of the leaders, fortunately some of them are present today in this webinar. I give the total credit to them for me to try this a new model of leadership development. And you have to tell me at the end of the day whether this requires further deliberation or just it is a rhetoric. Why should we talk about leadership? I can give at least 4 reasons. You know that leaders make a difference to the society, whether it is science or philosophy, arts, industry, commerce, any field you take, leaders make a difference. And leadership can be acquired. It's not that all the leaders are gone and nothing can be done. So there is a very pleasant surprise for us. Leadership can be acquired. And the third reason is Indian medical graduates. So many leaders are there today who are the architect of the new MBBS curriculum, competency-based medical education. And this curriculum depends on 5 important attributes of Indian medical graduate: a clinician, a team worker, an interpersonal communicator, a professional, and a lifelong learner. And I can tell you, this has to be backed by a very dynamic faculty development, sensitization, training, organization of support, logistics, and all these are matters of leadership. So if we have to implement this model successfully, we have to explore the full potentiality of what is the meaning of leadership and how it can get done. Last but not least, COVID pandemic has exposed the vulnerability for leadership. It has exposed that leadership makes a sense. It is not just a doctor who can handle the things. There's a team, there is a support service, there's civil society, government. All these people have to work together, and we need a leadership in a different context. I always say leadership, people sometimes confuse between manager and leader. Very simple to distinguish. Managers are, they produce the order and consistency. But it is the leaders who produce change and the movement. So leaders are like engine, whereas managers are like bogies. You require engine to show a direction. So the leaders set the direction, they define the problem, they build commitment to people, they build the team, and they motivate and they sustain motivation. So whereas the managers, they support, they do problem solving, they organize, staffing, budgeting, and everything. So we need both the people, but leaders do right things. Leaders will do the direction, and managers do the things right. They do what's troubleshooting and putting the systems into order. With that small differentiation, let us focus on the 5 basic facts about it. In fact, you can extend it further, but I have taken based on my study of leadership across the board. First one, all leaders are visionaries. Leaders are able to foresee. I think there is some crosstalk going on. Can we?
I think request organizers Swaroop to please mute everybody except the speaker.
Yes, sir, you can continue.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Your
Okay,
screen
click
now
on it
has to
now.
go to the presenter mode, sir.
Yeah. I was at this level. Leaders see something which others don't see. And they set very high goals. And these goals look like impossible. If it is possible, he is not a leader, isn't it? Anybody can achieve that. Sorry. Then the second one is leaders influence others because they can't accomplish their mission unless they get support from others. So leaders influence others and build teams. The third thing is leaders communicate effectively. Communication doesn't mean only giving bhashan. They listen more, they connect, they feel, and they connect with the organization. The next one is the learning agility. Learning agility means leaders are capable of learning, unlearning, and relearning. That makes them leaders. They have the grit, and they have the resilience and the persuasion. Last but not the least, this is mentioned especially in the Eastern wisdom, because the Western wisdom doesn't lay much focus on the last character, leaders, character, and integrity. They uphold human values. And one interesting thing we have to discuss here is the morality and the ethics. Morality talks about what is good and bad, whereas ethics tells about what is right and wrong. So leaders are mostly, they know they come from a good moral background, that's a different issue, but they take right ethical decisions. This is what makes them leaders. There are 5 styles which I'm not going to spend more time on this slide because this is the background. I'm creating a background for my work. Yeah. First of all, I think most of you have heard the terminologies autocratic. Autocratic leaders are the kind of dictators. They are very strict, they are assertive, they are disciplinarians, but many times they are self-centered. Democratic leaders are respectful, tolerant, they accept the people, they work with the people, and they are definitely slow. Because our own democracy is our ethos, and we have already realized how much difficult it is to work in a democratic setup. Things will get delayed because you have to involve consensus. You have to take the people along. So that is the second style which is mentioned in the literature. Charismatic leaders are the people who are influential, who have glamour factor. In fact, if you can look at the people from the Bollywood, etc., who have become leaders subsequently, they engaged on their glamour in screen, but then they try to connect with people. That is how they could become very, very popular. So that is the charismatic leaders. And laissez-faire means in this type, they totally delegate the powers to their delegates. If you are lucky to get very good subordinates, perhaps this is the good approach, because you trust delegate and people will do work for you. But laissez-faire is not possible because it may create law and order situation. And last but not the least important style is transformational leaders. Transformational leaders are those who are the role models, who build the team, who are the change agents, and who change others, influence others. This is the type of leaders which we really want. And if we look at give an example of so many leaders which we have around, including our Prime Minister Modi, you cannot say that anybody fits into a one particular type, because they have to change according to the circumstances, according to the dynamics, according to the complexities. So no leader you can assign strictly as autocratic, democratic, charismatic, laissez-faire, and so it's a combination. Now the present trend is toward collective leadership, because you cannot do, a single person cannot lead any organization. So that is why we believe in collective leadership. It's called distributive leadership, and wherein accountability is there and also transparency. Just to tell you summary of the evolution of theory of leadership. The theory of leadership has evolved drastically. Up to 1950s, we had a concept that leaders are great men theories. They are all big people. They are highly intelligent. They are highly dynamic, and they are led by values. So they are born. So that is the first concept. But since 1950s up to late 1980s, attention shifted from personal characteristics to the styles and the behavior of the leaders. So they are divided into tasks. Some are task focused, some are people focused, and we need a combination. And that combination determines the effectiveness of the leader. One of the very important theory is situational leadership. In fact, I would request you people to go into this issue separately in a separate webinar, so that you get a hang of the situational leadership. One of the very important theory, Hersey and Blanchard. He said that leadership depends on the followers, on the situation. You can't utilize the same leadership with everybody. So they say, there are 4 types of people who require telling. Telling means people who don't know, who are not motivated, who don't know the skills. Selling means they require motivation. Okay, they require motivation, but they know the job. They can do it, but they won't do it. And the third category is people who don't know the skills, but they are motivated. For them, you require selling. And then coaching. Coaching is required for the people who are not skilled. Skill enhancement is required, but they have motivation. And the last one is delegation. Delegation means if you have people who can be trusted, who are motivated, who are already skilled, don't exercise any leadership. just delegate and they will do the job for you. But if you don't do it, they will get irritated and they may revolt against you. So that is the situational leadership, very, very important. So the current trend is transformational leadership because we have to deal with complex environment. And for complex environment, no single leader can do. So he has to do distribute. So this is what the theory of leadership stands on today. Now the question comes, why do we need a formula? What is the problem with this present concept of leadership? The problem is that it doesn't give any long-term perspective. It doesn't talk about how a leader is born, developed, and functions, and and exists. So I thought there is a need for us to tell how a leadership is born, educated, works in the workplaces, functions effectively in the society, and exists peacefully. So this long-term perspective is lacking. That is the genesis for me to start this project. And it's also, it has evidence from two quarters. One is all of us, because we are educated from mostly Western literature, we believe that whatever learning theories, adult learning principles are backed, then only it is correct. Otherwise, we have a question. What is the theory behind it? We ask questions. So the theory, it is anchored on the Western theory. At the same time, it is anchored on Indian wisdom. Indian wisdom, what I call Sanatan Dharma. I'm not talking about the contemporary religions at all. I'm talking about the India which was there, which existed in prehistoric times, which was the land of wisdom for the whole world. So we can derive our Vedas, our Upanishads, our Puranas, our many of these Bhagavad Gita, and so many granthas which were done quite early. So they give us the direction. And lastly, it has to be applicable for any setting, because we should not think just in terms of medical education. Although I give credit to medical education because medical education gave to the world problem-based learning. Medical education is now venturing into simulation pedagogy, which is another attribute which the whole world will watch and wait how it is applicable, everything. Now, coming to this applicability in medical education context, we need to expand to all profession. Health profession is expanding. We need to take all the systems, bio system. We need to take our Indian wisdom, Ayurveda, Unani, Yoga, whatever it is. So we have to develop workforces in that context, which is applicable to all the work settings. That is how S5 formula was conceptualized. Please excuse me for one thing. If you look at it, first let me tell you what is what is the S5 formula. Very simple. S5 formula means that a leader should set a very high goal, very tough goal, seemingly impossible. Then only he can start a mission. So this is the starting point. It is called Sankalpa. I'm just using the Sanskrit terminology just to make it in a way universal, because you cannot say that Sankalpa is a term which is attached to certain communities, certain religions. No, I'm not talking about religions. I'm talking about ancient Indian wisdom. So Sankalpa, that is the starting point of leadership. The next point is self-study. Self-study means not only self-learning, self-reflection, self-direction. So many things what can be done by self. It is the part of the self-study. And I have put a Swadhyaya. In fact, the Swadhyaya is taken from the concept of Patanjali out of the Ashtanga Yoga, in which Swadhyaya is a part. But we can extend this concept of Swadhyaya in a very modern setting, how we can really learn from ourselves, utilizing the modern technologies, how a person can be reflective, learn himself. Swadhyaya is the second one. The next one, third one is synergy or satsanga. Satsanga is a concept which developed during Vedic times. And if you see all our leaders in culture, art, take any state, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, where let us say Bhakti Pantha started, isn't it? The Bhakti Pantha which started, they all developed through the Satsanga. They prepared like-minded people. They joined their movement and they came out with a movement, real movement, and real impact. So Satsanga stands for whatever you synergize through collaborative learning, through mentoring, through feedback. So that is the self-study and synergy. They work together, and they prepare for the next phase of leadership, that is service. Service is the bottom line, because after all, what is we expect? We expect a collective goodwill, collective good of the society. Any profession, isn't it? That to medical profession, service is the bottom. It's the heart of medical profession. So that is, I have called it seva. What is the difference between seva and service? Service is, seva, you can say it is a rough translation. Seva means unconditional service, unconditional love. You don't do it as a deal, isn't it? So you do it for sake of this person. Let him be happy. So I want to serve him. I don't expect anything from him. That is the spirit of seva. Then the next one is the last one, which is very, very important, is samarpan or surrender. A leader has to surrender. A leader has to give back. A leader has to pass on the responsibility to the next generation. So every leader should introspect himself, which is the right time, and which is the best modality for me to give back to the society, so that I become just an instrument of change. So S5 model starts with setting high goals. It believes in self-study supported by synergy received from mentoring and feedback with gurus, mentors, and everybody. The spirit is to serve, and lastly to end up in surrender. So in next few slides, I'm going to elaborate. I've got one slide for each, and I requested Dr. Dinuta to keep control over the time and just tell me how much time we can spend on the speech part and how much time we can delegate for the questions. Can you tell me?
So you still have 17 more minutes for talking, sir, and then we can have the deliberation.
Okay. Let me see whether if I can give at least 1 or 2 minutes of mine for the discussion.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, you can take 5 minutes more. Sir.
Yeah. No, I don't want to take 5 minutes more. I want to give 5 minutes more to the audience. Okay.
Right.
Now, setting the goal, I said leaders make tough sankalpa. Indian wisdom, you take, the example of Bhagirath. Bhagirath is a say. I don't want to tell the story because it's a long story. To cut short, his ancestors were, because they become from Shapa. Shapa means some curse. So they were all hidden in Patala Loka, and they told that the only way for their Shuddhikaran, purification, is you have to bring Ganga, the river Ganges. The river Ganges she is in heaven. So how to make Ganges come to the earth and to Patala, to make her to go to Patala to cure them from disease. But Bhagiratha was determined. He was a bhakta, he was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he prayed first Lord Shiva, he prayed Ganga. Ganga agreed to come. But who can stop Ganga? She is the force from which she comes from heaven to earth. The earth will go down, collapse. Then Shiva came to the rescue and he put his jata as the weapon to protect the people. So the story goes on. Ultimately, Bhagirath becomes successful in bringing Ganga river to the Patala, and he gives relief to his ancestors. So that is the story. Now coming to this modern context, setting goal is very important for the organization. So the institutes, we always talk about mission and vision. So every institute should try to set very high goal and try to, then again, failures are going to be there. When you set high goal, you cannot think that we will be all successful. So you have to mobilize team, you have to make teams, and you have to anticipate failure. And today I was reading, what Swami Vivekananda said. He told, if you are a leader, you have to take risk. And if you take risk, if you are successful, you are the leader. If you are a failure, you can guide others. You can tell them how did you fail. So that way, a leader can really make a difference. And one more thing associated here is the purpose of life. So everybody, purpose of life means we know that life is a game of 3 letters, B, C, and D. Birth. B stands for birth. D stands for death. B and D, you have no choice. But in between there is a C. The C stands for choice. You can make your own choice. How I can make my life successful? Everybody has his strength, isn't it? Somebody want to make a very good sportsman, and he should not aspire to be in the MBBS course just because his parents want him to be doctor. So this concept has to be ingrained into the medical students right from the day one. Do you really want to be a doctor? What is your purpose? What do you want to do? So depending on that, they have to be helped to set goals. And again, the management people talk about, prioritization of goals, how you can convert these goals into milestones, the same spirit of competency-based medical education, and give a dedicated time for everyone to achieve that goal. So that is the process will start. And again, in this process, motivation and role modeling is very important, because a leader who can only inspire and motivate others is the real leader. And obviously, I talked about forcing the future scenario, because, and while setting the goal, one important thing is that you should see whether my goal will lead to some collective good. This is your parameter to choose. But the question is whether am I for it? Do I have a sense of contributing as an artist, as a doctor? If yes, how can I contribute? How can I make a better doctor who will make an impact in society? Isn't it? Because many of the youngsters have an image of doctor becoming, like Audi car or making a huge practice. So he should ask himself, am I in race for money, or am I in race for making a difference? And he can reconcile. So this is the point of alignment issue. If the person cannot align his mission with the mission of the organization, he should quit. He should not stay. The organizations also should see whether the person's vision and his personal goal fits into the growth of the organization. So that is what is important. Second one, about self-study. To impress the importance of self-study in Indian wisdom, I take example of Ekalavya. All of us, I think, know the story of Ekalavya. He is coming from a very background, low caste and low background. He was not accepted by Dronacharya because Dronacharya used to teach only the sons of kings. So this person was, belonged to tribal community. So he was left, and he did not lose hope. He made the statue of Dronacharya, and he practiced and practiced. He took inspiration from his guru. And one day, what happens when the whole Kauravas and Pandavas, they were all children, they came there, and somebody, the dog was barking, and somebody shoot an arrow, and this dog stopped barking. And the king's children were amazed. Who could do this? it was done by arrow of Eklavya. Then they went to Hermitage, and then he showed the statue of Dronacharya as an inspiration. So the point is that Indian wisdom talks about this concept of in the Karnataka University we say Arive Guru. Arive Guru means your understanding itself is your Guru. That's a great word for inspiration. So self-reflection, self-learning, self-practice, self-audit, self-accountability, all this possible self-determination. And where does the self-study start? You cannot say that we will start lifelong learning in medical schools. It should start quite early in the womb of the mother. So self-study begins at home. And role modeling, what we call sanskar. Sanskar is very important. And experience of reflection and portfolio. Nowadays, I'm happy that the NMC has come out with the logbook. Logbook is a crude version of portfolio. We have to move towards portfolio because logbook doesn't give sufficient opportunity for reflection, whereas portfolio is 100%. Why did it happen? What happened? What I could have done? Next time, what I am going to do? So all these reflective questions will become springboard for the learner. And nowadays, self-study is possible because of the information technology, the social media, the IT, everything is information is flowing. But what is important? Judicious use of this, because we have seen the ugly side of the social media also. How it can deteriorate, how it can dilute the good sanskaras. So we have to be careful in selecting the media, social media or IT carefully for a judicious use. And one point associated with Swadhyaya is Swadhyaya concept came as a part of Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a holistic concept. So it talks from 8 limbs of yoga because it is what you call Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Samadhi. Samadhi is the ultimate. Okay. So this is a journey, and in which Swadhyaya means self-contemplation is one part of it. Now, how self-contemplation can be strengthened? My theory, or my perhaps it's not my theory, it's what people say. It is associated with lifestyle. It is associated with the way which you develop your ahar, vihar, vichar, yoga. These 4 words sum up the whole thing. Ahar is your food habits. Vihar is your exercise and your relaxation, hobby development, etc. Vichar is your thinking, positive thinking. And achar is your practice. So if you combine these 4 things together in a holistic framework, you are prepared for Swadhyaya. You are prepared for self-study. And another term which is associated with human values. Dr. UCHPE, who is a minister, he has also written the role of values in medical education. This is what is very important as educator. We have not asked this question. But now we have started in our own way. Adkoli modules are attitudes, ethics, and communication have become a core part of this. But it is time to think how we can really develop this further and make it happen. That is the question. The next one is mentoring or satsanga. Satsanga, I told, it is not a new concept. The concept comes from Gurukula system. Gurukula system wherein they live together. And also in Gurukula system, we had the method of nowadays, we can call it smart Gurukula. Same concept you use it, but use the opportunities for bringing better interaction between learner, the community of learners, what we call collaborative learning, and community of practice. So this is the synergy which we want. And community of practice for practitioners, nothing but you are networking, you are sharing, you are supporting each other. So That is one important element. Second associated element is the feedback. Power of feedback. We should explore the feedback to the fullest extent. We should give feedback, we should take feedback, we should support a culture of accepting the feedback, and lastly, the culture of feedback. Why this culture doesn't happen? Because our system believes in a hierarchy. Our system believes in power structure. So who should break the power? The leader. So as leaders, if, for example, if I am the dean, I should try to take my all the staff together. If I'm the staff member, I should take my students to the same level and try to encourage them to give feedback. So that is how leadership and feedback should grow at every level. It's not at the highest level, but starting at the highest level. I remember Dr. Narayana Murthy, the Infosys giant. During lunchtime, always he used to go and sit with the boys and ask them, boys, what is happening? He used to listen to them. If a leader can do this, why not? Anybody can do it. So the practical implications for this collaborative learning is we have to redesign our class. Our regulators should again introspect. We always think in terms of creating infrastructure, but utilization of infrastructure and innovative and creative infrastructure is very important. If you can take a group of students to a small community, isn't it? Suppose you can make them very informal in the canteen, in the corridors, in the workplaces, everywhere. Try to take them along the line, try to impress them, and try to learn from what goes in there. So that is the contextual learning, what we call workplace-based learning. So developing a community of practice is very important for harnessing synergy that is success. The next one is S4, service. Service means building team. And another thing at this stage is when you go into the service, people will not believe you unless you demonstrate success. And another important thing is sharing credit. Many of the leaders, they grow at the same time, they grow on the shoulder of others, and others are not encouraged to grow. Okay, so that is the problem. The problem is when your middle level people, your juniors do a good work, you appreciate them and you entrust them with more. They will do it. And conflicts are going to be there at this stage. Why conflicts? Because one is competition. Second is leg pulling, we say. Third is people say, why this man? He is going to be a big leader. As if, he is something different. So a leader has to put a very low profile. If he puts a low profile, yes, sir, I am, I say that, in the interaction between faculty member and dean, I often tell the faculty member, don't tell that it is your idea. Tell the boss that, sir, it is your idea. Then he gets happy. Isn't it? So it's a question of satisfying the egos. So resolving conflict is a major issue. I would request your university to take up conflict management as a separate topic because it's a beautiful topic. It talks about the different styles of conflict management. Thomas and Kilman, 5 stages: avoiding, competing, accommodating, compromising, and collaborating. This model tells that collaborating style is the best style. It requires a lot of planning, lot of taking the people along. It requires vision, hard work, and teamwork. And the other tips which I am going to give, these tips are not mine. These tips are, you go to any what you call satsang or any spiritual leader, they will talk about these things. Long back, I attended the Art of Living, for example, Sri Ravi Shankar. They all talk about the same thing, focusing on the present moment. They say, about the focusing on present, there is a very good quotation. Yesterday is outdated check. Tomorrow is a promissory note, but today is the ready cash. So focus on today and every day put your 100% and you repeat the same thing. And if you would put 100%, if you are upset, if you meet failure, you will not regret. I have done my best. Things did not happen. So focusing on the present moment and accepting the differences. And very close to that is the spirit of giving. Because we all the time, we know the spirit of taking from others. We say, give your notes, give your PowerPoint, give your articles. Okay. But we hesitate to give what, or sometimes maybe because we feel that my work may not be good. But try to share it. If you give it to others to critique it, he will critique and he will refine it. But somehow we have not developed the culture, and that is why our research is not progressing. No multi-centric studies. No studies are wherein the whole 8 people, 10 people, 20 people do a work and showcase. So that's the way forward. Then lastly, take responsibility for the failure. When failure is there, everybody is going to meet failure. Go underground. Do some meditation. Why did I fail? And then you start building again. Make your people, you will find out the reason. Anybody will find out the reason for the failure and try to update, unlearn, and relearn. And managing of success and failure is very important. But last but not the important, is work-life balance. Because it's a danger for the leader. Many leaders think that, no, if I have to do justice, I have to go from my house. They dig their families, which is not good. So it is called, in fact, I was thinking about the sannyasis, sages, and the king Janaka. He's the king. Janaka is the father of Sita. This king is supposed to be the highest spiritual man. He led his life. So that is the, what we call karma yoga. Karma yoga means you are a man of action. You are not a sage who is running away from society. So taking responsibility is very important. The last one is the surrender. Surrender means samarpan. So samarpan means not running away. It is time to gracefully quit and creating the next level of leadership. This is not discussed. Because who has to discuss? The leaders have to discuss. And leaders feel threatened when you talk about the retirement. Because sometimes it's because we say all is corrupt. It is not anybody's mistake. It is the mistake in the system. The system makes you powerful. And you tend to believe that you are really powerful. You are really omnipresent and omnipotent. That is not true. Because people will not raise voice. They will not give you feedback. The other day, Dr. Tejinder Singh was telling his own story. It's also very interesting, talking about the feedback. So a leader has to really see, listen, and try to mentor others, handhold, trust, and delegate. And once you realize that it is time for me to quit, you have to quit and say, show must go on. You become an instrument of change. So for this, it requires a lot of shedding ego. Because the more we are attached to our position, attached to our close family and circuit, or whatever it is, any kind of attachment is not healthy sign. Because a leader he belongs to everyone. He doesn't belong to a particular caste, community, or a region. He belongs to everyone. So that is the last part of it. Coming to the evidence, depending on the time I'm going to take, if I'm already done with it, I can just tell in one sentence that S5 formula is backed by series of learning as well as the wisdom of the Indian wisdom. Okay, so you can explore. I have given the references also. For example, if you say, why is this self-set goal? It is theory of motivation. Theory of motivation by Ryan and Deci. They say, for motivation, 3 things are important. First is you require choice. You have to make your choice. Secondly, you have to feel competent. perceived competency. And third is the support which you get from mentors. If you combine these three, sky is the limit. You can rise any level, provided you have a choice, you feel competent, and you are supported. Then self-study, all of us, you are all medical educators, you have studied about the theories of learning, hope, and the reflection by Sean and Gibbs the reflective cycle. All these things talk about reflection. And another theory by Synergy is zone of proximal development by Vygotsky, and community of practice by Lev and Wenger. Very interesting, because they say that community of practice is the strength. And lastly, for the service, management theories definitely back it. But management theories don't talk about the last one, the surrender. Because in Western concept, I don't think there is something like surrender, because they go on keeping and keeping. Okay, but Eastern wisdom talks about surrender. So it is all the sankalpa, it is the swadhyaya, the satsanga, and seva, the paropakara, samidam sharira. It is all about paropakara. And lastly, samarpana. So at the end of the day, I want to, tell that to put these things together, we need to say that leadership is a collective agenda. No single individual can do it. Unless, so leadership is at the center. This is the government which makes policy on one hand. At the same time, faculty need to be aware, they should participate, they should role model. Students are a very important part of this cobweb. Then management should support in sensitization.
Classic.
And yeah, and lastly, the regulator. There is always, we look forward to the regulator, but there is not much of dialogue between the academicians and the regulators. And talking about the health profession, though you got Center for Health Profession Education, unless you bring medical, dental, nursing, allied health sciences, physiotherapy, and Ayush system together in one platform, you can't do justice. So thank you very much for your patient listening. And now the floor belongs to Dr. Vinita Shankar. And before we start discussion, I want to, shall I stop sharing my screen?
Yes, sir.
Or it should be there?
We can stop now and then come back again, sir.
Asha, chat for that.
Shall I stop sharing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I have stopped sharing. Now, one thing before somebody asks questions, I may not be able to answer some of these questions, but I am a community of practice here. I have got very good community persons. So I may